Hello and thanks for joining us this week on the Bison Basketball Show. I'm Brian Shawn. December is here and the countdown is on until Summit League play begins, but still plenty of non-conference games on the slate for North Dakota State. The Bison men, a challenging week finishing up a road trip down south at Mississippi State before returning home for a rematch with Missouri State. It was the first meeting between North Dakota State and Mississippi State, the Bulldogs coming in 5-0. Bison down 6 midway through the first half. Tyson Ward rolling off a screen and hitting the long jumper. Ward just 2 of 10 from the floor on the night. Mississippi State would go on a 10-2 run to build a double-digit lead. Abdul Adu tips it away from Ward, leading to a 3-on-1 break. Adu finishing with the jam for a 26-14 lead. The Bison rally in the final 5 minutes of the half. Spencer Eliason with the offensive rebound and finding a cutting Paul Miller for the lay-in. Then A.J. Jacobson would get hot from the outside, hitting back-to-back three-pointers. NDSU would hold the Bulldogs scoreless in the final 5:18 of the first half and trail 29-24 at the break. In the second half, on the Bison's first possession, Jacobson would launch again from the top of the key and get the friendly bounce. A.J. 4 of 5 from long range and finish with 15 points. Mississippi State would respond with a 13-0 run. Nick Weatherspoon with the rebound, and he takes off down court, going all the way in for the basket and the foul. He had 12 points for MSU. Miller would try to keep the game within striking distance, slipping inside for the lay-in. He had a team-high 19 points to go along with 5 rebounds and 4 assists. But there was no slowing down the Bulldogs' Tyson Carter, who hit 6 three-pointers and scored a career-high 35 points. MSU shot 65% overall in the second half and rolled to the 83-59 victory. NDSU shot just 10 of 35 from three-point range on the night and 5 of 8 from the free throw line. The Bison returned home after a tough trip for a rematch with Missouri State. NDSU won the first matchup back on November 17th and jumping out early. Tyson Ward driving and dropping it off to Dengu for the two-hand jam and a 5-point lead. With under 9 minutes to go, Ward to Paul Miller for a wide-open three-pointer. The Bison were 7 of 15 from long range in the first half to maintain the lead. 2 of those triples came from Chris Quayle, the sophomore, came off the bench to chip in with 8 points in 19 minutes of action. But Missouri State ends the first half on a 12-2 run to grab the momentum. Jared Dixon racing down court and hitting the wild 3 at the buzzer, and the Bears would take a 37-32 lead going into the locker room. In the second half, MSU senior Alize Johnson scored 7 straight points. He also had a game-high 10 rebounds, the putback in the foul here, scoring 21 points overall on the night. Bears led by 8. North Dakota State would rally back with a 9-0 run. Miller, the tough step-back jumper, he was the only Bison player in double figures, scoring with 16 points. Later on the ball rotation, back to A.J. Jacobson, knocking down the 3. NDSU would take the lead moments later on 2 Jacobson free throws, 50-49. But Missouri State stormed back with a 10-0 run to pull away for good. Reggie Scurry getting the feed from Johnson inside for the lay-in. He scored 13 points off the bench, and the Bears hand NDSU its first home loss in 9 months, 71-58. The Bison went just 1 of 12 from three-point range in the second half and were out-rebounded 42-26 in the contest.
We're close, but at the end of the day, we're 3-5, and that's never acceptable for us. And we know we got to pick it up, and we got a tough one coming up against UND that we got to be ready for.
We're trying to win. At the end of the day, that's all we're trying to do. So losing at home is tough, and it's not what we're about.
We welcome in NDSU men's coach Dave Richman to the set to chat about the Bison men playing 3 games in 6 days. Tough stretch, Dave. And I think when you looked at the schedule, you knew it would be, having to go all the way to Stephen F. Austin, then to Mississippi State, and come back just a couple days later, take on a really hungry Missouri State team. What do you make of this last stretch of games?
Yeah, certainly, Brian. It starts with me. We are a program that absolutely eliminates every excuse that we have. That being said, I think especially early in the year with our young group, we need to make sure we continue to have that perspective. We've played a tough stretch, and going back to finally getting home on Friday afternoon, we were 12 of 20 days on the road, and then like you talked about, these last 3 games in 6 days against very, very quality opponents, and those are tremendous opportunities for us to learn and grow if we take those opportunities and learn and grow from them.
Missouri State, exciting to have an opponent like that just come into Fargo. You know, it was unfortunate with the blizzard. I think it probably impacted the crowd a little bit, Dave, but That was exciting to see that caliber of opponent here because we haven't had a chance to do that very often. Tough to get teams to come here.
No question. You go back to Tim Miles' first year at Colorado State, somebody like that. I remember a Southern Miss game a couple years ago. That year we were really good. Those games are great for Fargo. They're great for our fan base, and more importantly than anything, they're great for our guys. And you can see, a team like that, when they have that depth and experience, when we were able to make that run and take that 1-point lead on AJ's free throws, they were able to respond back. And so that's, again, like I said, it was a tremendous test. We didn't get all the answers to that test, but if we learn from them, we can be in better position down the road.
Talking to Paul Miller a little bit after the game, he said, it's one of those things where some of our guys, I think me included, just need to get in the gym and just start repping again. And that's something you'll be able to do now that you're actually home and you have some space between games. That's going to help getting some meaningful practices in. We talked about that last week, how that might help a little bit here in December.
No doubt. We're all creatures of habit, and it's nice to be back at home so we can be in our habit and kind of get into that routine. And there's a big secret to life, right? To make life successful, you know what that is? It's hard work. And that's how we're going to put our head down and get through all this, and to be at home, to refresh and to be in our facility and be in our beds and all those things is certainly going to be a big part of that refreshing, recharging, and helping us grow.
I think the one thing that stood out to me that's pretty obvious, Dave, and I think you would probably agree, is the defense at this point in the year is way ahead of where it was last year. And I know the offense may not be there yet in terms of the consistency, but on that end, you got to feel pretty good about the way you guys are locking in.
I feel good about who we are as a defensive team when it comes to the initial bar. We've got to clean some things up on the backboard. Again, I'm not an excuse guy, but you look at who we've played. They've got big physical fours. Sometimes those are a tough matchup for us. We've got to do a better job of finishing possessions. But yeah, I think us in the gaps, our contest, our pick and roll defense, some of those things is significantly better. And again, I'm not worried about our offense. We've emphasized being a great defensive team, knowing that our offense will come because of the personnel that we have, and we start playing like-minded or like opponents. Those things will help too. As far as I think we've had some growing experiences through the longer athletes that we've played that have made our offense not look as good as it needs to be.
Well, you get to sleep in your own beds now until you leave for Arizona way more at the end of the month. That starts against North Dakota. You go up to Grand Forks for a game on Saturday. That has turned into kind of a fun rivalry, so to speak, and you're playing them twice again this year, and that'll get you ready for conference play when they join the Summer League next year.
Yeah, no question, and Brian's done a tremendous job, obviously coming off a Big Sky championship last year, an NCAA tournament appearance. So, as much as it's nice to be home, we're going to go and take a few days here to get better and recharge, and then have to have some great practices because Saturday evening is going to be another tremendous battle for us.
All right, Dave, thanks as always for the time, and good luck Saturday against North Dakota. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
All right, stay with us here on the Bison Basketball Show. Maren Walseth and the Bison women on the road for a couple of games at Colorado and Milwaukee. We'll check in with the Bison women after this time out on the Bison Basketball Show.
The Bison Basketball Show on Midco Sports Network is presented by Nodak Insurance Company, Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, and Proceed.
Welcome back. The North Dakota State women's basketball team was fortunate it didn't have to travel until Thanksgiving weekend to play a road game, but it was a long 2 weeks, playing 4 games in 6 days away from Fargo. That included a tough challenge at Colorado last week. The Buffaloes and Bison meeting for the third time in series history, dating back to 1978, and North Dakota State playing catch-up right from the start. Rylee Nudell scored all 10 of her points in the first half, including this three-pointer from the wing early in the first quarter. But Colorado's defense stymied the Bison all night. Peyton Carter with one of the Buffs' 13 steals up ahead to Brees Thomas for the easy lay-in. NDSU trailed 28-11 after the first quarter. Taylor Thunstedt led the herd with 13 points on the night, hitting 3 of 8 from outside the arc. The Bison just 7 of 27 overall from long range. Kennedy Childers came off the bench to score 7 points in 12 minutes of action. The Bison would get back within a dozen, but trailed by 21 at half. Early in the third quarter, Marina Fernandez with the nice pass up court to a cutting Riley Jacobson for the lay-in. Fernandez a team-high 4 assists, but there was no slowing down Colorado. Another turnover, leading to more points. Kennedy Leonard cruising in for 2 of her 16 points on another easy basket. The Buffaloes shot 59% from the floor, rolling to the 108-59 victory. The Bison turned it over 19 times and were outscored 76-12 in the paint. The Bison women made the trek to Milwaukee for their 4th straight road game 2 days later, and off to a good start. Rylee Jacobson would score back-to-back baskets early. She finished with 8 points and 5 rebounds. Then in transition, Sarah Jacobson would feed Taylor Thunstedt. She hits back-to-back three-pointers, and NDSU would build a 10-5 lead early on. Later in the first quarter, Michelle Geislerova with the ball fake. She steps in and connects on the baseline jumper. She led the Bison with 9 points in the contest. But the Panthers would answer with a 33-4 run to end the half. Jenny Lindner gets the pass underneath and flips it in. She scored 13 points for Milwaukee. Panthers led it 40-16 at half. In the second half, Tyra Spencer would come up with the steal and cruise in for 2, but the Bison shot just 29% in the game, and the Panthers would pull away for good. Alyssa Fisher burying the corner 3, and Milwaukee rolls 74-38 the final. The Bison were out-rebounded 53-28 and had only 2 second-chance points. The Bison women returned home after a tough road trip to host UT Rio Grande Valley. And NDSU rolling out of the gate. Sarah Jacobson scored 13 points on the night, including 2 on this backdoor feed. A 14-2 run for the Herd to start. Rylee Jacobson came off the bench to carry the offense in the second quarter. She scored 4 straight baskets as NDSU maintained a 10-point lead. But the Vaqueros would rally behind the hot shooting of Quinn Huggins. One of her 5 three-pointers, she scored 19 points. NDSU led 41-40 at halftime. In the second half, with the game tied at 51, Rylee Nudell left alone at the top of the key for 3. She knocks it down. 13 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists for Nudell on the night. Early fourth quarter, Bison down 2 until Marina Fernandez hits another triple, her only points of the game, as NDSU takes the lead. Taylor Thunstedt scored 8 of her 11 points in the fourth quarter. This jumper gave NDSU a 4-point lead with 4 minutes left. After the Vaqueros go on a 6-0 run, Jacobson cuts to the basket on the inbounds play to lay it in. She had a team-high 21 points, and it's tied at 78. UTRGV was 19 of 21 from the free throw line, with Jamaica Dowell going 10 of 11 from the stripe. She scored 23 points. Vaqueros take a 82-79 lead with 7 seconds left. One last chance for the Bison. Thunstedt rolling off a screen, launching the deep 3 to tie it, but it's off the mark, and UT Rio Grande Valley hangs on for the 82-79 win. NDSU had 23 assists on 30 made field goals in the game. The Herd coming up just a little bit short on their home floor.
This whole week, Coach talked about being physically and mentally tough, and I thought that we competed really good, more so than we did on our last 2 road games. And just taking this and bringing it into Saturday's game will really help.
It was very competitive, and I mean, we had a couple bad games on the road, and we definitely improved. We can't be satisfied. We have to keep competing. But, I mean, our toughness was there.
Stay with us here on the Bison Basketball Show. We sit down with NDSU women's coach Maren Walseth to get her thoughts on the past week. That's coming up next. All right, welcome back. We are joined now by Maren Walseth, NDSU women's basketball coach, to break down the last week. And Maren, 4 straight road games, 4 of those games in a 7-day span. That's a lot of time on the road, and I'm guessing it probably caught up with some of your young kids, especially in the last game at Milwaukee.
Absolutely. You know, 4 games on the road, you're home for 36 hours. For some young players, establishing that road routine, what they're comfortable with, how they operate at their best, takes some getting used to.
Yeah, and to come back home, I know that was nice to just get back in your routine a little bit. We're all creatures of habit that way. A really good game against UT Rio Grande Valley. Hard fought, back and forth, a team that smacked you pretty good at their place last year, and this came down to really the last possession in the final seconds.
You know, coming back from our road swing, we talked a lot about toughness and competing. And I really thought our ladies competed well last night. Very happy with the box outs and the pursuing the basketball. But at the end of the day, you hope to put yourself in a situation to take the last shot, and that's what we did.
I had an opportunity to win it. A pretty good look for Taylor coming off a screen top of the key. Rylee Jacobson coming off the bench. Putting Nudell back in the starting lineup, bringing RJ off. That seemed to give the team a little bit of a spark, especially on offense. She had 4 straight baskets, end of the first, start of the second quarter, and really kind of needed that offensively.
You know, Rylee Nudell is such a dynamic basketball player. She has such a high IQ. Figuring out and finding ways to keep her on the floor is best for the Bison. And then the other Rylee, I thought really showed what she's capable of last night, giving her some extended minutes. She found her rhythm. She was more comfortable. I was excited to see her produce well.
Taking care of the basketball, your team's done a good job of that. Only 12 turnovers. For the most part, you've kept it to that 12 to 15 mark, which is much better than the 20 to 25. We saw your young guards struggle with that a little bit last year, understandably. That's got to be encouraging to see. You guys are much stronger with the ball so far. I've
been very happy with their growth and those now sophomores, their time in the weight room, their understanding of what we're doing and how we're doing, but also the upperclassmen. Taylor Thunstead is taking care of the basketball very nicely as well. You know, we talk about assist to turnover ratio, and we're much in the positive this year. Very encouraging for us.
Not a lot of time to catch your breath. You go up to North Dakota this weekend. That's always a fun game. It's kind of a fun rivalry game. Should be a pretty good atmosphere up there. How much are your kids looking forward to that one? I'm sure you too.
Well, I think we're all looking forward to it. You know, we go game by game, and so the preparation will start here soon. But going into an environment where they obviously feel very comfortable, they're playing well at home, it'll be a tough task for us.
Last thing to talk about here real quick, the chance now to be home for a while. You get to go up to North Dakota, but then you're back the same night, and then you have a whole week before you play again against Cal Poly at home. This is a good time to catch your breath and maybe have some meaningful practices here moving forward.
There's a couple things that are going to happen in the next week and a half or so, and some of that is taking care of academics and our finals, but also getting back in our routine, our own practices, extra time in the gym, getting our mojo back and making sure those shots are very comfortable and falling for us. We'll take our time the next couple weeks here at home.
All right, Maren, thanks for the time as always. We will see you next week.
Thank you.
All right, stay with us here on the Bison Basketball Show. We will catch up with Rylee Nudell, that sophomore from Buffalo, North Dakota. That's next. Welcome back to the show. Bison sophomore forward Rylee Nudell has been in the spotlight for quite a while in the state of North Dakota. She grew up playing Class B basketball at Maple Valley, where she broke the school scoring record when she was only a sophomore. She went on to set a North Dakota record for career points with 3,458, and this week we go one-on-one with the Buffalo, North Dakota native. All right, back for more one-on-one. We're here with Rylee Nudell, who is a sophomore this year, and saw a lot of minutes as a freshman. This freshman class here was a big class. You guys got thrown into the fire right away. What was that experience like for you transitioning from Class B basketball in North Dakota?
It was a little rough at first, but I'm thankful that I did get the amount of minutes I did. Like Coach always says, not very many freshmen get to go from high school to college and be able to play that many minutes, so that was nice and a good experience.
Well, you played out in Maple Valley. It seems like a long time ago now, even though it wasn't that long ago that you were playing there. When you were playing there, obviously you knew about North Dakota State, small town kid. How much did it mean for you to come to a place like North Dakota State, coming from a smaller town in ND?
It meant a lot. I have always been a Bison fan, and so as the high school years went on, I just knew that I wanted to come and play here. So when they started recruiting me, it was the perfect opportunity.
Now, last year, not only were you playing, but you had to play like 3 or 4 different positions sometimes. There were times you started at the 3. There were times you had to start at the 5 underneath because that's just where the team was at with some of the bodies.
Yes.
What was that like for you? Do you like playing underneath compared to playing out here in the perimeter? Do you like to get physical?
I sure do. That, I don't know, that's probably my favorite spot. I don't know, I just like to work hard and, like you said, push people around a little bit. So it was a good change and I don't know, it was fun.
So you've obviously gotten a lot stronger, Rylee. You could tell right away. Where have you noticed it most when you're out here and you're just doing your thing? Is shooting the basketball just easier now?
It is, yeah. I put up a lot of shots this summer too, but just like being able to get that muscle memory down and being in the weight room, like your legs are stronger, your arms are stronger, so it makes everything a little bit easier.
All right, so let's walk me through your jumper. When you talk about muscle memory, what did you used to do and what do you do now? What changed for you shooting the basketball from your freshman year to your sophomore year?
My freshman year, I would really take, like before I'd shoot it, I'd take a big step out, and Keith got me to the point where now I shoot it with my feet closer together.
So when you're shooting close, how long did it take you to get used to just coming together, going up and coming down as one motion?
Well, it took me all summer to perfect it, but it took me I don't know, a couple weeks because it was really uncomfortable at first, but I don't know, it took me a while.
Let's get away from basketball, because we all need to get away from basketball once in a while.
Yes.
What does Rylee Nudell do when she can get away from hoops?
Ooh, well, I do like to take a lot of naps, so that is what I usually do in my off time. Or, like you mentioned earlier, I do live really close to home, so I go back and visit my family, or I don't know, just do that kind of stuff. In the summertime, I like to go to the lake, be with my friends, just kind of hang out.
Hang out.
Yes.
And here you are,
Relax.
your sophomore year, and you've relaxed when you can, because it doesn't happen very often,
No,
right?
it doesn't, especially in the winter months.
Well, thank you for joining us, Rylee, and good luck.
Thank you.
All right, Rylee Nudell, one-on-one. Nudell's father, Ron, is also a longtime basketball official in the state as well, working some state tournaments. Stay with us as we take a look at the Bison's upcoming schedule and wrap up this week's show.
The Bison Basketball Show on Midco Sports Network is presented by NODAC Insurance Company, Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, and Proceed.
We are back to wrap up this week's Bison Basketball Show and a big doubleheader of hoops this Saturday on Midco Sports Network. The North Dakota State men and women will be in Grand Forks to take on rival North Dakota. The women tip off at 2 p.m. The men follow at 7. Both games can be seen on Midco Sports Network. We hope you'll join us. The Bison men then play host to Valley City State back at the Shack on Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. as well. That game too can be seen on Midco Sports Network. Enjoy the games this weekend, and we'll see you next time.